Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Beauty Not Boundaries. I am your host, Felice. Beauty Not Boundaries is where everyday women navigating real life come together to share our authentic experiences without boundaries. We do this in hopes of inspiring each other and helping each other grow. So, welcome back. Be sure to follow me at Beauty Not Boundaries on IG and at all handles. You can also find me at beautynotboundaries.com. Today, we are continuing our discussion on suicide awareness and prevention. We have heard from an expert in mental health, but we recognize the importance of giving voice to those who have actually lived through the experience of losing a loved one to suicide. Therefore, we are opening up our hearts and our ears to hear from Miss Trina Stinson. Trina is a mother, a wife, and a businesswoman. On September 14th, 2019, her world was forever changed when her 21-year-old son, Tyrell, took his life after years of living with bipolar disorder. Since then, Trina has been on a purposeful mission to educate our community about mental health awareness. So she has so graciously agreed to come on our show to share her story. Welcome, Trina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is so good to have you here. I know this probably doesn't get any easier as time goes by. So we are just so grateful for your presence today.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Can you tell us a little bit about Tyrell? Let's start with just getting to know your son.
Okay. So Tyrell is a highly or was a highly intelligent young man, very thoughtful. He loved God, and he was always trying to help those around him suffering from bipolar as well, or just any mental illness himself.
So many people who have beautiful souls, who are beautiful people, still may be struggling internally with mental health.
Right.
And I believe that Tyrell had bipolar disorder. When did you first learn about that, or think that there was an issue?
Probably when he was in high school, but really I knew something was wrong for him, probably pretty much almost since birth. Um, in the beginning, when he was a younger child, I took him to see a counselor, and then, then we would go to the therapist. And as he got older, they wanted him to see the psychiatrist. The
So
thing
why? What was happening? What was
so just
happening?
just, he didn't, like, change much. So but, at that time, we didn't know that it was necessarily bipolar. Well, I knew he was the middle child of my 3. I knew he was a little different. Like, just for example, people would say, uh, "Hey, if he's crying, just let him cry himself in the room. He'll stop crying." Oh,
Mm,
no. He would cry for, like, 2 or 3 hours, that kid, you know? He would
mhm,
not stop. And so at a young age, and then he was very particular, like things, if change happened, it would set him off. I remember one time I had to go to the school to see about him because he had a fit because they had a substitute teacher and the kids did not put the color caps back on the right markers. So he was in the front of the principal's office changing the caps on there. If his
mm.
teachers weren't out, he was an angel. He wouldn't get in trouble, and he's always gotten good grades. If ever he was less than an A, all of his teachers would tell me, "If he's not getting an A, he's not trying." Like, I would literally have one of his teachers for middle school live down the street, his math teacher, and she was like, "Miss Stinson, Tyrell's getting an F right now, but I really think it's because he's bored. So I'm gonna give him a chance to make up his work. So I made him do the work. He turned all in the work and got an A minus. Being late, he got an A minus. So I was like, why do you do that? Like, he would do that regularly. Just like he would never bring books home. I remember when he was going to graduate high school, they were asking for his AP calculus book. He was like, I never brought that home. Like
Yeah.
he would
Yeah.
just pass, like, he was naturally smart. Like, he go my older son had to take his driver's test, like, he didn't pass to the 4th time. Then the 4th time, he was coming too, so I was like, "Oh my god. I hope, they both pass." And I told them, "Can you let my older son take it first?" And they said but they didn't. They let him go in first, and then he came out, "I passed." And I'm like, "Oh, that studying helped you." He was like, "I didn't study." And I was like, "You
So
know, oh my gosh." Like, he was
so
highly intelligent.
when did the struggle with bipolar actually start to impact
His
your
life.
day-to-day interactions with him, and caring for him as his mother?
Well, I would say it started, more in middle school. Middle school was a struggle. That is when, and I think for most kids right now, middle school is that hard struggle because they're not really little kids anymore. They're not quite adults either, or like the teenagers about to be adults. So they struggle. Um, so I remember, the first time that he was really mentally upset was when he was in middle school, and we had to go to the school, and he was upset about a note. He had actually gotten in trouble, and when we looked at it, we found a note in his drawer, and it was a note from a young lady that had been his friend all through elementary school, and then now it said something about, and I'll say it in the nice way, like, they didn't want the Black people on the bus. And so that is when he started noticing he was different, um, and
So
just
so
being
let's
depressed.
because I wanna frame this, I wanna understand. So
Right.
he was clearly at a school that, was predominantly white,
Yes.
and he was taking the school bus, and he was friends with a white
Young
young
lady.
woman,
Mhm.
and some sort of way there was, she was conveying to him that somebody didn't want him on the bus or something, and obviously that's hurtful.
Right. And I feel like those kind of things started him spiraling. And then so he died by suicide. However, that was not his first attempt. So that was his fourth and final attempt that we are aware of. Um, so there was a time when he was it so this is when it's really started because like I said, all along I took him to see therapists and psychiatrists, and they would test him and say he was fine because he was highly intelligent. They give him a computer test and he know what to put on there. Like, so he would get
Mm.
around it.
So did
Um
it start in high school? Like,
yeah,
once
so
the note happened, and then you said things started
yes.
to
So
spiral?
his first attempt was in he was 11th grade, like the
Oh.
towards the end of 11th grade. He didn't do anything senior year, then all the other times was as an adult, which made it really hard because once he was 21 and we tried to get medical proxy over him, they would not give it to us.
Mm.
So our state is hard with mental health. Like they said, well, he has to come down and sign it. And I was like, well, I wouldn't be here if if he was gonna sign it, if he was just gonna let me do what I needed to do for him.
And
So
so you said that, there was a
4
4th and
times.
final attempt, which
Yes.
was on, September 14th, 2019, but
Yes.
there were the 3 times before. The first time was in high school, and then these other 2 times, what were his attempts like, and what was your response? How did you intervene?
So the first time we found out because one of my older son's friends or their mutual friends told us that he said he was gonna take pills. So he took these pills that actually he probably thought they were gonna do more harm to him than they were. They were like codeine or something, but he took these pills, so I had rushed him to the emergency room and let them know what he did. So after that, they checked him and they told me that, he was okay, and that is why I knew the episode in middle school really started, like, it got to me because I would talk to him like, "Why are you trying to do this?" And he was like, "Well, nobody loves me, and my friends treat me horrible." And he was like really upset about it, and he didn't understand why he was being mistreated. So at that time, directly from there, they put him in an institution. For I want to say he was there about 3 weeks. So we would
Mhm.
bring his stuff, and we would go and visit him, and they were really good in, us coming to have counseling with him and him having counseling, and he did well for a long time after that.
Mhm.
Um, so his next time, his last several times were more closer together. So, like I said, that was like towards the end of his junior year. We didn't have any episodes his senior year. Um, and I want to say that it was probably between 20 and 21. He died when he was 21, 21 and a half, actually, exactly. And the next time that he did something, he told my husband that I feel like harming myself.
Mm.
And so
And
I
what was
need
your
help.
response to that? How do you even process that?
Yeah, it is very hard, but we respected that he said that, and my husband then again took him to, the emergency room, and that is another time where they put him in an institution. He wasn't there at long, I wanna say each time it's like they kept him less and less.
Mm.
So the first time was about 3 weeks. The next time I say it was a week and a half to 2 weeks, and, my husband was out of town, my other 2 children and I went to visit him, and again, here's the bipolar, we would go in there, and he was just, like, so happy, he found God, he met this friend in there, and he was like, "I'm ready to go home," and I'm like, "Are you sure you need to stay here?" And,
Mm.
the lady was calling me, "Oh, he's ready to go home, he's doing this, this, and that," and he was vibrant, like so with the bipolar, which I don't know, some people don't understand, he's never just like us, like, in the norm. He's
Mhm.
really depressed or really elevated, happy, ready to take on the world. Uh,
Mhm.
so he was never just mellow. He was one of those extremes. And so towards the end, the last several years became hard because we had to deal with those extremes. Like he would never try to hurt any of us, but he would be upset and he would take it out on himself or his own belongings, like we have where he's punched a hole in the wall.
Mhm.
So that time they let him come home. And then the third time, uh, my husband had bought him this car to try to, with him being highly intelligent, try to have him something positive to focus on. So he had this
Yeah.
little Miata that didn't run, and we knew how intelligent he was. Like this would give him something to focus on. Well, he did get the car running. His struggle was getting it passed, just to pass the smog check, and he actually didn't do that while he was alive, but he got it running. Um, and he didn't know anything about cars. My older son actually was the one who worked on cars and has the car now, but we came home, he was upset about something about the car, and then he just was just so upset, and he was ready at that time to hurt himself. He was gonna drive off in the car. We had to stop him, and we actually called the suicide hotline, and they came in, and the only reason they were able to do something is because my daughter recorded them. And so
Wow.
yeah, the police officers came and, he stood at the top of the stairs and was like, "Why are you gonna send me to the institution? You're wasting your money. I'm gonna tell them what they wanna hear, and they're gonna let me
Mm.
go." And so
No.
yeah, so he went to the hospital for a day, and then they sent him to the institution, this last institution, that I'm so upset with, and they called me, like, half a day later, like, if even that. I was at work, and I was on the phone crying, "Please do not release him. Please keep him because he's telling you what you wanna hear." And they're like, "Well, ma'am, we don't see any suicidal tendencies." And I just felt like these people are not educated enough to know bipolar, And
Yeah,
I
and you know your son.
yeah, I know
That's the big thing. So can we talk about that just a little bit? Some of the challenges, because now we're talking an adult, right?
Mhm,
And some of the challenges that you face, because my understanding is that you were trying to get medical proxy, you were trying to be able to intervene, to
right.
care for your son, but you faced all these blocks from the state officials and even healthcare providers.
Right. Yes. Yes. So yeah, very discerning that we couldn't do that. And also we knew, so just to back up in between, I took him to a psychologist who actually did the test for him, because I was like telling my husband, I think he's bipolar. It was sometime in high school. But he took a test. He went through where the ones where they show him all the pictures, and then he had to answer the questions. And I had copied at one time some of those questions that they sent back. He had to answer like 300 questions. They asked him in different types of ways, but they asked him about um do you think about harming yourself? Like, do you like music? Like, they would just filter them in, and they had said he was bipolar. Um, but just to touch on, like, the officials and the help, like, the second to the last time that he was there, um, in a hospital, they sent him home with sleeping medication and antidepressants. He took the sleeping medicine, but he didn't take the antidepressants. Like, he didn't believe in medicine, so that was why we wanted to get medical proxy. However, it was great that he didn't take the medicine they gave him, because they gave him depression medicine, which works for depressed people, but he was bipolar. And the psychologist was like, well, it's a good thing he didn't take that medicine, because that would have been worse for him. Um, so it was
So
very
that's
hard
really key, making sure
that you have
that
the
your
right
loved ones
medication.
that you have the right medication. That is just so important.
Mhm.
So, Trina, if we could, can you take us to that last week or the last period? Because I know that he was in a institution, and you pleaded with them to keep him, and they did not do that. And
Mhm.
he came home, and that's when he took his life. Can you take us back to that time?
Well, it was actually a couple of months later.
Okay.
So it was approximately end of April, beginning of May of 2019 when he was in the facility last. But he had sent us a message before they picked him up and put him in. He had said, "It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, or even next month, but I will kill myself."
Mm,
So that was hard for us. And at the time, we were just talking about the time leading up. He had just started a new job doing IT, work, and making pretty good money. And so, and this time was different than all the other times, because he was like so happy. Um, and if we had time, I actually have a clip that it's a really short clip that you could hear, of his state of mind, because we actually played that during his anniversary. But he he would say that how outside looks all normal, but the inside is just like raging. Um the the day slash day before, because the 14th was early in the morning Saturday. So I came home that Friday night, which was Friday the 13th. I think he planned to do it on Friday the 13th.
mhm,
Um, he had went to work and even got his food. So he had like his last meal and everything. And my room's downstairs, and he was sitting at a computer playing a driving video game. And he was like, "Hi, mom, how you doing?" Like, so happy and excited. He wasn't even in a bad mood like the other times. The other three times he was, on the upset side. Um, so he was just in a great mood. That day I had to go pick up my husband from the airport. I remember telling him, "Hey, my daughter was in marching band. Let your sister in, because she might be coming home early because it's raining." He was like, "Okay, no problem, no problem."
mhm,
My daughter even remembers him asking her if she wanted the Miata. Um, and then we didn't see till later, because I didn't scan his Facebook, that he posted on his Facebook. You know how people who know they're going to die, they start giving away their items. So he had posted on Facebook, "Hey, does anybody want this Miata? You have to be in need of a car." Like, he was trying to be
mm.
charitable at that moment. So
But that wouldn't have been out of the ordinary based on
right,
your earlier stories about, he wanted to care for people. He gave things away. So
right.
that is a sign, but for him, he
But
had a
I wouldn't have
genuine
noticed, yeah. If I
yeah.
seen that beforehand, I probably wouldn't have thought of it. I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, are you trying to give away the car?" Um, but so then that morning, so we figured out, So I heard him in the middle of the night, but again, that was not out of the ordinary. I heard him like slamming drawers in the kitchen angrily. And when they're bipolar, sometimes they stay up till 5 a.m. in the morning doing whatever, playing video games. And then he would sleep in. So I heard him just making noises, and it woke me up because I'm a light sleeper, and I was like, "Why is he doing that?" And that was a hard point for me too, because I was like, "Oh, well, God, why didn't you tell me? I would have went and, did something." But it was his normal. The next morning, my husband went looking for his drill, to go help the marching band, and he didn't answer. But it wasn't abnormal. My daughter, who was in the marching band that day, was in her room sleep. She was in the 10th grade at that time when he was 21. And so we're like, okay, I guess, he's still sleeping. My husband was like, he has this job, he was working all week, he's tired, I'll leave him alone. And then it just became where we went to go get lunch, and I was sending him a message, do you want lunch? He didn't answer or anything. He actually had his music playing in his room. And then finally I was like, I just started getting these weird vibes. Like I was in the shower and I was thinking to myself, I haven't heard from him. Like, God, like I hope he hasn't attempted it again. I can't go through this again. And then I thought, oh my gosh, because my husband's mother had died a month and a half, and we took on the funeral, and I was like, oh gosh, I hope anything didn't happen to him. Like, I can't afford another funeral. Then I told my husband, go get the key and check on him. Like, I don't understand why he's not awake now. So my husband went to go open the door, and he was screaming, and I ran upstairs and I seen him hanging there. He hung himself. So,
Mm.
each time it was a different thing that he tried to do. So he hung himself. He did plan it because we got his phone, and what hurts a lot is he reached out to two people. One young lady, it was probably like 15 minutes before, somebody he met in the institution. She was battling herself, so she was drunk, so she probably wouldn't have helped him. But the person that really hurts me is, so Thursday, it's in his phone. The Thursday, his ex-girlfriend, he reached out to her and said that he was planning on killing himself. It might be Saturday or Sunday or whenever. He wasn't for sure. But, like I felt like she could have came and said, "Hey, I got this weird message," because again, he
Mm.
died in the wee hours of Friday/Saturday morning, and that was Thursday that he sent that message to her. So we know
So
that
she
he
never
planned it.
reached out to you?
She never reached out to us at all.
Did
Um,
she have you talked to her? Do you know why?
no, I have not talked to this young lady. I've actually never met her. I just have her name that was in his phone. So I had never met her. The other young lady came to the funeral, so I met her and everything. But yeah, so I don't know why. She just didn't she didn't respond or anything. So that was very hurtful just for that fact that she didn't reach out. Um
Mhm.
she wasn't responsible for that, but like if she reached out to us, we could have been aware to try to do something, because when people are having a moment, I always tell people um suicidal or bipolar people, it's kind of like a cancer. Like you sometimes medicine works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's like they're in this room where they don't hear people while they're in that episode. Like you're in
Mm.
this far tunnel, and you're like your voice is barely hearing, because when he'd come out of it, I would tell him, "Listen, I'm trying to help you," and he'd tell me, "I know you're a great mom. I know you want to help me, but you can't help me," and I told him, "I know,
Mm.
I was talking to him about, hey, can you please go down there, and I'm your mom. I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you." And I felt like I was making leeway to get that medical proxy. He even just got a book from my godbrother, like a mentoring book. So like he was trying to do different things to help himself, but he refused to take medicine. He
Mhm.
had a book on discerning spirits. You know how they
Mhm.
say people who are highly intelligent, they verge on that realm of spirituality. And
Mhm.
so he was really, trying his best to do what he could for himself without taking medicine. But he just
Mm.
refused um to do that. He refused to do that at all. Um
So we got to the wee hours of a Saturday, and your husband discovered your son.
right.
You saw that. I can't even imagine how traumatic that must have been to see, and
Okay.
talk about how you got to the other side of this,
Okay. And
okay?
if you want, I can play this clip for you. It's like 11 seconds or whatever, where you can hear it if you want to. I accidentally
Inside, everything is all peaches and cream. But on the inside, I was silently screaming.
Wow, so he says, "I know on the outside everything is all peaches and cream, but on the inside, I'm silently screaming." Wow.
right, like, every time, and we've played that numerous times, just trying to get message across to people, but every time I hear that, I want to cry.
Yeah. And you talked about, he had communicated with at least 2 people, just prior, and one person was dealing with her own mental health, challenges, and the other, was an ex-girlfriend, and nobody reached out to you, to say, "Hey, I got this message, and he said he plans on taking his life." He had tried this 4 times, right? The 4th
Right.
time being the final.
Right.
Did he just not want to live?
You know,
Do you
so
believe that?
I believe that he wanted to stop the pain. Not
Mm,
necessarily that he didn't wanna live, because if you know anything about bipolar, it's in that moment, and that's why we say, reach out, get help, because that sometimes that moment is short, and then you're out of that episode, but you get into that depression or anger because you think no one cares, or whatever has set you off, and you haven't yet learned the tools to deal with those things, and a lot of people just need to be heard, and to be cared about. So, like, we talked about that, earlier in the month, that, you know, be kind to everybody, because you never know what they're dealing with, and that is what
mm,
I actually taught all 3 of my kids. Hey, be nice to people, because you never know what's going on. You might be that last person that they are gonna talk to, that last chance. They're gonna might say, "Hey, if she smiles at me, then I'm gonna be okay." It might sound silly, but they might be saying, "I'm just gonna give it one more chance," and you were that last chance. That it
mm.
doesn't smiles are free. Just, try to do that, because everybody's struggling with something.
Thank you for that, Trina. That was food for my soul just right now, because I think we all get so busy in life, right? We're
Right.
busy at work. We're busy just in our day-to-day caring for our families. We're busy trying to run errands on the weekend, and it can be very easy to overlook how we treat someone, how we talk to someone. So just that message of kindness, be kind where you can. And I know it's not easy, and I'm guilty of it. Like, I can sometimes be impatient
Right.
because I have very limited time. But that is just so right what you said. And I hope everybody hears that, be kind. Let's try to practice more love and compassion.
Right. And I think, just when you have people like that who are struggling, you need to help them find their worth, because um Tyrell was very talented. He taught himself how to play the guitar. He played the viola in middle school, but he decided not to play in high school. Whereas my daughter played her instrument in high school and was very successful about it. I remember a time we were together, I believe it was Thanksgiving or something, and he told me, "I'm really sad." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I feel like no one has anything good to say about me. It's just good things about other people." I'm like, "Well, you're very talented." And he's like, "I know they deserve it." But I'm like, "You're talented." And sometimes people who struggle with that, they're not seeing how valued they are. And I had
Mhm.
just posted that, since it was his anniversary, like pictures of him. Sometimes people who are suffering from bipolar, though they are highly loved, they don't feel the love.
Trina, do you feel that social media plays a part in some of this, and how especially younger people see themselves?
I absolutely do. Um, because it comes in a time where they're already lost, or just not necessarily lost, but trying to figure out their worth. And
Mm,
then, we all know that young kids can be mean, and they can see more in front of them of what they don't have, or what they feel like they don't look like, or or they see these stars that have everything and they think I don't have anything, and they don't know that that's not the norm. um so like maybe you or I could handle it, but some adults can't handle social
A
media.
lot of folks walking around here
So
believing in make believe because that's
right,
what people are posting, the photo op.
right,
And
they're not
before
seeing
you
the
had to
true
go to
life.
somebody's house and see the photo op, right? You had to
Right,
be looking at the photo album, and now it's just constant bombardment with people's happiest times. And it's just like, that's just not reality.
it's not.
Reality is what you were living with. That no,
Right.
people do have their issues, their challenges.
Right. And that is one of the reasons I share this, because yes, God has been good to me, but life is not perfect, and we all go through something, and it is okay to not be okay. But you can't stay there. So that is my model that I tell everybody. It's okay to be not okay, but don't stay there. Have your
So
bad day, and then you need to get up and start a new day.
start a new day. So Trina, in starting a new day, how did you and your husband and your children, how did you deal with this in the immediate aftermath? How do you know, how do you get to the point of getting up, right?
Right.
And
Right.
going forward?
I will say, first of all, it's God, and we have a great community. Um, yeah, I was probably went from screaming to shock to planning the funeral and making it perfect for everybody else. So I was like in that mode, and then I figured I need to do something. Like I was at that point he died, I was in the period of losing weight, getting myself healthier already. So that was a hard thing too, because I was like, "Oh, he liked to hike. I could go hiking with Tyrell, but he's not here anymore." But I figured I have a husband, and most importantly, I had two other children who needed me, and
Mm.
who my children were close, so they desperately needed me. So I prayed about it. I was like, I am not going to let the devil defeat me. Um, I, I that was my out a lot, was exercising and going to church, and I had a church community, and I knew how Tyrell was as far as helping other people. And I decided I wanted that to be my mission. So I believe I talked about that before, with my business. I was doing it for my discount, and I went to the seminar last year, and I seen people talking about, their issues in life and how God brought them there and they were successful. And I was like, people don't listen to the little people. I need to do all I can do to be up there on that platform. I need that platform. I need to be on these radio shows. I need to go to the schools, and I need to get the word out about mental health, because I just see it so much around me now that people, are trying to hide it and display it. And I said, this is my mission, because he put that in me, and I feel like I am continuing on his mission. So that I need to bring the mental health to the forefront. And that's what helps me. Do I have bad days? Absolutely. Where I just sit and cry and think about him. But I've learned that need to reach out. I will tell my husband I'm having a bad day. I'll tell my friends, everybody knows. I don't try to hide it anymore. And I will say that is a thing about losing my son, where I was always kind of, like we said, social media is bad. I was always not wanting people to know my business, caring what they thought of me, oh, my hair's a mess. Now I'm like, hey, they could take me or leave me. I have a mission. They can, I want people to like me, but if they don't, oh well. Like I am, the daughter of a king. I am going to get out there and I'm going to do God's work, however I have to do it. Um, so yeah, so that is what gets me there. It's just helping people, genuinely helping people. I am the person that talks to all the strangers in public, just to try to make their day, um, whether they be, handicapped, not handicapped, African American, white, whoever, I'm going to try to help do what I can and do random acts of kindness. And I actually do that this month. because of the fact it's his anniversary. So I try to do it in September and March, his birthday, and do random acts of kindness for people.
Wonderful. So how have so you have 2 other children, are they
Yes.
both, girls, or you have girl,
No,
boy, or
so I had 2 boys and a girl. So I have one, son that is here, and he is older than, Tyrell. They are about a year and a half apart. For him hi for Trayvon, I believe he struggles the most because, we tried to all go to therapy after, and he went one time, and then he refused. Um, and I actually did not like the therapist either. My husband nor I liked the therapist, but I found my other outlets were,
so why? Can we talk about that too? Because
my
I
other
think
son.
in our community, we don't go to therapy because a lot of times we believe, well, what happens in this house stays in this house. But
Well,
there's also, for those who are open to therapy, it's important that the therapist be a good fit
right.
for them. So what was it that made this therapist not a great fit?
Right, and that's what it was. It wasn't that we were ashamed to go, it was that she was not a good fit. Um, it was that I felt, for me personally, I felt like she didn't listen to me, and
Mhm.
so when we first started, she would ask us, "Well, what were the things that people say?" And, when someone dies, and other people have not experienced that, you're kind of a taboo. And one, I don't like to dance around it. I don't want to forget about my son. I want to talk about my son. Don't not talk to me because you're afraid you're going to hurt my feelings. So all the things that we brought to her saying that we didn't like other people to do, she did the same thing. Like, I would see her preparing for us 5 minutes before we were about to start our session, and I
Mhm.
just didn't feel like she understood. And maybe eventually, if I can find someone who's experienced suicide therapist, that would help me. But we went to, and I forget the name, but the suicide where group where you go and everybody's experienced suicide. They're suicide survivors. That's what it is. No matter who, whether it's your children, your aunt, or anybody, that helped my husband and I more. However,
Um,
my daughter does go to therapy. She will tell me, "Mom, I need some more sessions. I need to go to therapy." She'll be like, "I had a hard day at work. I'm going to therapy." Like, she is so open to it. She tries to get us to go back still. She's like, "Everyone should go to therapy." And she's
mhm.
probably right. We didn't find the right fit, but I think most importantly is that you find a purpose, an outlet, a way to do that. Like, and that's what I'm telling my son. We would like for him to go to therapy, but if you're not ready, find a different outlet, whatever, something
Mhm.
that helps you, um, in a healthy way, get out what you need to. And for me, it's being there for other people, helping other people, trying to save other lives, and so that other people don't have to go through what I went through. That is therapy for me. And so people around me are starting to get to know me that way. So they'll be like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" And they'll say things about Tyrell. And I belong to a group that's called Moms of Angels. So we meet once a month, and it doesn't matter how your child died, it's just your child, you lost a child. So I have another lady who's experienced, I actually met her in the suicide survivors group, and I invited her to the Moms of Angels. Her son died the same way, but he hung himself at college. And then so we have, other ones have car
Mhm.
accidents, whatever, but we know that we understand each other, and we can cry, and we don't have to put on a
Mhm.
facade, and we just do things with our kids, and we can talk about it freely. So for me, that is like a therapy. Just,
Absolutely, that
getting over
community.
that, yes, that community. So that's what helps me, not pretending that I'm not okay, is just, you know, resting when I need to rest, and then going out there and doing God's work. And like I said, I meet with these ladies. So I have all kinds of help and community. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say like what business I have, but with
Yeah,
that,
you can,
so
I mean,
yeah, so with Mary Kay, they believe
I
that
mean,
God
we're
is
not promoting Mary Kay,
right,
but
right,
you work
but
that's who you work for.
that's who I work for. And so with that, they believe God is first. So even within there with Mary Kay, we pray together, we talk. I'm in a director's Bible class. So I'm trying to just do it every way. My husband and I lead a married life group. They all know about my son. So like we have like a big throw of my son in the family room. So that when they come to our group, we just put everything on the table and tell them all our flaws. We lost our son, this is that, and this is who we are. We're human and we're all trying to do life together. And I really think that helps. And a lot of times, just so you know, that people say that when you lose a child, a lot of times that affects the marriage. It's hard. But I feel like that has brought my husband and I closer. We have that. And you know, I'm sure there's like certain times we're both sad, but most of the time when we're really upset is at different times. So we're able to balance each other out and,
Mhm.
we can lean on each other. So that is what keeps me going also. He's
Wonderful.
he
That's all wonderful, and I'm so glad to hear that you have all these different types of outlets.
right.
And a lot of it is giving and supporting others, which is really too sort of the spirit that Tyrell had.
Right.
That is, so I see where he gets it from, and that's just wonderful. And so now, what is next for you?
For me, it is just continuing to try to do things like being on this show. My husband does mental health, and I do that with him, and we bring different aspects of mental health, not kind of like you, not just suicide, just different areas, and just reaching out to people wherever I go, like just trying to help. I was actually just stating to my national director that I would like to be able to be in this middle schools and the high schools and talking and being on the side as a survivor and letting them know that you will be missed. You absolutely will be missed. Because sometimes they feel like that. No one's going to care. No one's going to miss them. They're just going to go on with their life. Yeah, we do go on with our life, but it's a struggle. Like there's a piece of you gone, there's a whole a
Mhm.
chunk out of my heart. So I really want to just be there, you know, being with the young people, letting them know, how important they are, or even just adults, but mainly the young people, just trying to be there wherever I can. So
Absolutely, and there's such a need for that, and I'm sure people will continue to hear your story, and will reach out to you. And I will certainly keep you informed if someone reaches out to the show. Everyone, you can email the show at beautynotboundaries@gmail.com. You can go onto our website, beautynotboundaries.com, or you can chat with us on IG at Beauty Not Boundaries. So if you want to reach out and you want to talk to Trina, please do, and we will get the message to her. Trina, you talked about the organization, Moms of Wings. What is it called again?
Moms of Angels.
Moms of Angels. Now, is that a national organization? Can people find that in their state?
No, it's not a national organization. It is actually just a local group of us ladies who live um, here in Georgia, and it started out with a Facebook group, and it's crazy how you just think you never should have to bury your child, but I'm finding that there's several women who are having to do that, and we're trying to think of how we can spread it because I have a family member of my senior director who recently lost a child, and she asked if they could join, and she's in a different state. So we thought about actually maybe once a month doing a virtual thing. We actually meet in person, and we either like have breakfast, or we do like Christmas time, we made ornaments of our child, like do some sort of project, and we talk and just catch up with one another. One lady was actually wrote a story that in a book, and then it was crazy because another friend of mine came and brought me a copy of that book, and she was like, "Oh, I was going to give you the book on the next meeting." So it's like a bunch of moms or parents who are talking about their child has left, and we talked about making our own little book also, where we can tell the stories of our child, a little bit more in depth. So it's not national yet, but who knows? But the person who started, her son just had his 10-year angelversary. He's been gone for 10 years, and he died in a car accident. So and like she said, like people think, oh, that people who haven't experienced it, it's been 10 years. Shouldn't you be over it? No, it actually, I was just saying it's 4 years for me. It actually gets worse, like, the feeling, because I think maybe more so my mind told me, "Oh, he's on vacation. Oh, he's on away," but as I don't see him more, like, I miss him more, but I've learned to, navigate myself, and it's
Mhm.
not that, or compartmentalize different times, like, "Okay, I've gotta work today, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and get in a shower and cry," you know? So I do that, but, you miss them more because you're not gonna see them, the time has gone by, and it's like, "Dang, that's a long vacation." So,
Yeah.
you don't get over
So
it.
again, family, if you want to reach out to Trina, and maybe you can help her create this national platform. I'm sure she's ready to go.
Yes.
So hit us up at Beauty Not Boundaries on IG or beautynotboundaries.com. Or you can send an email to beautynotboundaries@gmail.com. So those are all the ways, and we will get the word to Trina. So, Trina, we are coming up on time. Could you leave our audience with a few things that you want them to know, some takeaways? Can we do three?
Okay, yeah. So the first one is, like we talked about before, always leave a word of kindness. Always speak kindness into people because you never know what they're dealing with. And then the second thing would be, again, is it's okay to be not be okay. And then the third thing I would say is find your people. Find your people that you can go to
Oh,
so that
that
when
is
you're bad.
wonderful. That is wonderful. I have a takeaway too, and it's bipolar doesn't look a certain way. And I think people hear mental health disorder and they are thinking that they envision the person who's walking down the street, talking to themselves, yelling out into the air.
Right,
They're not thinking of a young man like your son or young woman who is very functional, right? And very smart, highly intelligent,
right,
and still, works on projects and goes to work and
right,
has a girlfriend or a boy. Like we don't when we hear bipolar, a lot of us don't think that it could just be the person that we're dealing with day to day. And maybe we just don't see it because, like Tyrell said on that recording, he said, on the outside, it's all peaches and cream. On the inside, I'm screaming.
right, right.
So that's why it's so important that we exercise kindness because we could be sitting next to the person who is thinking about taking their life, and how we treat them can make all the difference. And thank you, Trina, for that word that it is okay to not be okay. And it's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
In fact,
Right.
ask for help. Go to somebody that you can trust. Again, we want to thank Trina for her time, for coming on and just opening up your heart to us. Trina, it really means a lot. I'm sure it will save some lives and save some people, and help a lot of our audience
Right.
understand what could be going on with a loved one, but also respond and know what some of the challenges may be in that one that you talked about where you're trying to care for an adult child, but they are an adult. So they have to sign off on certain things, such as
Right.
giving you, authority over them, medical proxy. That's going to be helpful information for folks. So, ladies and gentlemen, you were tuned into another episode of Beauty Not Boundaries. I'm your host, Felice, and for this very important discussion about mental health awareness and suicide prevention by Miss Trina Stinson, who lost her son in 2019 to suicide. Thank you so much, Trina, for coming and sharing your story about Tyrell and how you have worked through this. We wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thoughts of suicide may feel impossible to overcome, but with help and support, you can find hope and meaning. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1 800 273 TALK to speak to a counselor, or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. It's free, it's confidential, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if it feels like it, you're not alone.